What's going on YouTube, and welcome back into the channel. I hope you're having a great day so far, and in today's video we are going to be doing our official tier 3 equipment guide for Phasmophobia. Now, every single piece of tier 3 equipment actually has a lot of features about it, so this may be a little bit more of a longer guide comparatively to the tier 2 and tier 1 guide that I did before, but nonetheless we are going to be going over each and every single piece of equipment and each and every single thing that they do, so that way you know exactly what you're doing in case you don't want to prestige and you want to rock tier 3 equipment for a little bit. But nonetheless, let's dive into this guide. If you like the video, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button as well if you want to see more content just like this, and I hope y'all enjoy the guide. Alright y'all, let's go ahead and discuss our first piece of tier 3 equipment. We're talking about the tier 3 D.O.T.S Projector. Now, this D.O.T.S Projector is a massive upgrade over its previous tier 2 variant, as you would expect it to be, being a tier 3 item. Now, this actually has a spotlight of wide, which is a great thing because it's going to cover a lot more area of the room. But one of the biggest benefits of this tier 3 D.O.T.S Projector is that it has a range of 7 meters, which is extremely far and a massive upgrade compared to its tier 2 variant. And it's also going to scan the room for you, so it's going to sweep left and right automatically, and it's going to give the ghost a lot more of an opportunity to walk through those D.O.T.S projectors. So this is a massive upgrade, and I highly recommend getting to this tier 3 D.O.T.S projector as fast as you can. And with the tier 2 D.O.T.S projector as well, or just like it rather, you can also turn this D.O.T.S projector on and off just by simply clicking on it, right? Once you put it on the wall or the ground or whatever surface you place it on, you don't need to take it off the actual surface to turn it off. Walk up to it, left click on it, and actually that'll just completely turn it off and disable it in case you're trying to test for a Raiju. But there you go, that's the tier 3 D.O.T.S projector. Definitely try and get this as fast as possible. Alright y'all, let's go ahead and dive into our first piece of
Look at this dude.
tier 3 equipment. We're talking about the EMF Reader. Now, the EMF Reader for tier 3 actually has a range of 3.5 meters, and that's a lot more comparatively to its tier 2 variant, which is only 2 meters. And that's huge, right? Because now you can be further away and still get those interactions on your EMF Reader from 3.5 meters away. That's a big advantage, because now you don't have to be in the danger of the ghost room really, or at all. You can kind of get them from outside the wall of the ghost room. Now, also, two things that got carried over from the tier 2 EMF Reader is the audio indicator and the accuracy of high. Now, of course, it's not a bad thing, right? We got an accuracy of high now, and we also have, of course, the audio indicator, so we can hear those interactions from a little bit further away on the EMF Reader. So with this tier 3 thermometer though, you
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
have two massive upgrades. You have the addition of a display screen, right, which is going to tell you two big pieces of, honestly, really great and serious information that you're going to use during your investigation to possibly up your game on your photo log. And that's going to be a directional indicator and also a distance indicator right here, which is going to tell you where the actual sounds are coming from. And with the distance indicator, it's going to tell you how far away you are, whether you're right on top of them. Now, with the tier 3 EMF Reader, there's actually 3 sources, so you can actually pick up 3 separate EMF readings at one time on the EMF Reader. And the one at the far bottom of the EMF Reader is actually going to be your most recent EMF reading. So whatever you see at the top of the EMF Reader is in fact your oldest EMF reading. And keep in mind, these EMF readings only last for 20 seconds. So if you're trying to go for a perfect investigation bonus and get absolute perfect 3-star photos, definitely try and take a photo of the EMF reading that you have at the far bottom on source 3. But that's the tier 3 EMF Reader. It is a massive upgrade, and honestly, it just helps you get that perfect investigation bonus much easier with your photo log. All right, now that big chunk of information is out of the way, let's go over some of the basic stuff with the EMF Reader, specifically, of course, the tier 3. We have your EMF 1 reading, which, of course, is going to be nothing. You're not going to get anything, and it doesn't mean anything at all. It just means the EMF Reader is turned on. Now, your EMF 2 interaction, that is going to be any kind of item that's just been lightly touched, like a door has been touched, or a shoe has been slightly shoved, or a picture frame has slightly been shoved over. Nothing crazy, just a light interaction. EMF 3 is going to be any object that's been thrown. Now, that's going to be something such as a shoe being thrown across the room, or a plate or a fork being thrown across the room. Like I said, anything being thrown, that's going to be your EMF 3 reading. Now, EMF 4, that's going to be any kind of ghost event that takes place. And again, you're only going to get that EMF 4 interaction at the origin, at the source of the ghost event. So usually generally where you saw the ghost spawn at. And again, this is just a ghost event. It's not a hunt. EMF 4 is just a ghost event. And then EMF 5 is, of course, your EMF 2 or EMF 3 interactions that have a 25% chance to turn into that EMF 5 interaction. And that's what this looks like here on screen. But that's all your EMF readings, and that's what they mean on the actual EMF reader display screen. All right, y'all, let's move on to our next piece of Tier 3 equipment, and we're talking about the ghostwriting book. Now, the ghostwriting book here on Tier 3, you get some upgrades, but there's really not a whole lot to it. You get a total range of 5 meters, which is up from 4 meters on the Tier 2 ghostwriting book, and you also now have a high interaction rate compared to a medium interaction rate. So you have a little bit more of a chance of getting those actual ghostwriting on your evidence, and honestly, the Tier 3 is pretty unmatched. You get it pretty quick the moment you put it down, as long as the ghost that you have is actually giving off ghostwriting. Other than that, there's not much to it. 5 meters of total range, and you get a high interaction rate. All right, y'all, moving on to our next piece of Tier 3 equipment, we're talking about the Spirit Box. Now, this Tier 3 Spirit Box is, of course, much better than its previous Tier 2 variant. You now have a total range of actually 5 meters compared to the previous variant, which was only 4. So you actually have a larger radius to where you have a chance where the ghost is standing within that radius to actually give you that response. And honestly, it works pretty darn well, especially in those large rooms. And a few of the other benefits or pros, if you will, about the Spirit Box compared to the Tier 2 variant is you actually have a better audio quality. So you're gonna be able to hear those ghost responses a little bit more clearer, and it kind of adds to the immersion of the game as well. But you also have a higher response rate. So you're gonna have more of a chance to actually get a response with the Spirit Box when you actually ask those questions. So with the Spirit Box though, on this Tier 3 variant, you have a lot of lights and a lot of buttons that are on the interface that, to be honest with you, don't make sense, and they don't do anything for you. You only really need to pay attention to these 2 sets of lights. One is the mic input light, and that right here looks like this, and if that's illuminating, that basically means that the game is hearing your voice through your microphone, which is a good thing, right? That means your microphone's working, and that's what it's there for. It's there to give you that feedback so you know that your microphone's actually working. And then you also have your set of response lights here at the bottom, right? And this is gonna be your second set of lights, and if they turn red, that basically means that the game is registering the question that you're asking it, it's receiving it, and it's a valid question. The ghost just chose not to respond to it. So if they light up red, that's how you know that the ghost is not responding to the question you're asking it, but it is a good question to ask. And then if they light up white, of course, that's going to be your ghost response. And of course, you're going to audibly hear that as well. And that's obviously going to be your ghost response. So other than that, there isn't really that much to the Spirit Box here on the Tier 3, but I just want to clarify that because there are a lot of lights and buttons that are completely invalid. And hey, who knows? Maybe the game will eventually add in support for these lights and make them mean something, but as of this upload date, they don't mean anything at all.
Where are you? They closing. Are you close?
Taken away.
Are you far?
Taken away.
How old are you?
An elderly victim.
Where are you? Are you near?
They here and
Are you close?
far from their
Active killing.
possible hate crime. Possible hate crime.
Alright, y'all, let's dive into the Tier 3 thermometer. Now, this Tier 3 thermometer is generally speaking, the second best thermometer of Phasmophobia, even though it's Tier 3. The reason being is because the Tier 1 thermometer still takes first place, generally speaking, in regards to the practicality of using it. And if you want to watch that, check out my Tier 1 guide that I'll have linked down in the description and right here in the video. But nonetheless, the Tier 3 thermometer has two main advantages over most of them, and the first one is it has a high accuracy, and it also has a higher, faster sample speed compared to its Tier 2 variant. And that's really the only difference between the Tier 2 and the Tier 3 is the fact that it can take temperature readings faster. And as you can see here, I'm taking these samples, and you can kind of see the speed at which I'm taking them between the hallway and the basement, and you can take those samples a little bit quicker with this Tier 3 thermometer. But other than that, that's the only difference between the Tier 2 and the Tier 3 thermometer. Alright, y'all, let's talk about our next piece of Tier 3 equipment. we're talking about the Tier 3 ultraviolet light. Now, let me tell you about this thing. It has a charge time of 1.5 seconds, and it also has a spotlight of wide. So it's gonna be covering a lot more and a lot wider area, so you can get those fingerprints a little bit easier without having to strain your eyes and look too much harder. But the charge time, again, refers to how long you have to hold the ultraviolet light on a fingerprint for the fingerprint to remain on the door so you can get a photo of it. This is absolutely key, especially for solo, or if you're just by yourself in the house and you're playing with teammates and you need to take a photo of it. Only charge it for 1.5 seconds, and then you can pull out your camera and take a photo of it. And for comparison, the Tier 2 was 5 seconds charge time. That's crazy, but we got a lot of big upgrades here. But nonetheless, though, this is the ultraviolet light. Use it for looking for fingerprints and footprints when the ghost walks through salt. All right, y'all, let's dive into our last piece of evidence-related equipment that we can get here, and we're talking about the Tier 3 video camera. Now, the Tier 3 video camera does have a higher image quality, as you can see here. It's much more clear, and you actually also get a larger screen, larger display screen that you can look through. But this is really only applicable if you have it without a tripod. I have personally noticed that when you put it on a tripod, you actually lose a little bit of that visibility, and it kind of reduces itself down almost to the Tier 2 size. So again, if you want the full, like, actual screen visibility size, highly recommend not taking a tripod with it, but this shouldn't be too much of a difference. And you're also going to get less paranormal interference as well, which basically means, like, when you're getting in a hunt, or say there's just a ghost event going on, it's not going to interfere with your screen all that much. But other than that, there's not much to the Tier 3 video camera other than it's bigger, better, and a lot more clearer on the screen. All right, y'all, let's dive into our first piece of Tier 3 consumable equipment, and we're talking about the Crucifix. Now, the Tier 3 Crucifix can actually block a cursed hunt, and that's right, not only can it block normal hunts, but it can also block cursed hunts, which is absolutely insane. And that's not something that we've ever seen in Phasmophobia up until the tier equipment was introduced. It also has a range of 5 meters now, compared to the Tier 2, which was only 4. So you do get that extra meter of range to kind of give you a little bit more of a cushion room in those larger rooms when you're hunting for ghosts and Phasmophobia. Now, it only does have 2 uses though, which is the same as Tier 2, but nonetheless, I'll take it personally. 2 uses is better than 1 use on the Tier 1. So, with this cursed hunt, let's talk about it. Cursed hunts are any hunts that are generated via a cursed possession. So, for example, the summoning circle, right? Once you light all the circles, the ghost is going to spawn in the summoning circle, and you can get a photo of it. And after that, normally it will begin its hunt. But as long as you have a crucifix within the summoning circle area, so basically just put a Tier 3 crucifix in the summoning circle, it's going to block that hunt. But it is going to use up the entire crucifix. So that's something that you need to note down. And if you're trying to block a cursed hunt, you have to have the full crucifix on that summoning circle. Now, again, if that crucifix only has 1 arm left, as in it's already blocked 1 normal hunt, this crucifix will not block a cursed hunt anymore. It's only good for normal hunts. So again, make sure you're using a full crucifix to block that cursed possession hunt. And again, this applies to the music box, Ouija board, or the monkey spot. It applies to everything, really. But make sure though, when you're using the Ouija board, when you play hide and seek and you do that game on the board, make sure the crucifix is actually in the ghost room, because that's where the hunt will start at. So again, make sure the Tier 3 crucifix, the full crucifix, is wherever the ghost is going to start its hunt at. So again, the summoning circle, it's going to start in the summoning circle. Ouija board, the hunt will start in the ghost room. Just be aware of that. But this is the Tier 3 crucifix. It's absolutely outstanding. And I got some clips, obviously, you've been watching in the background here. Hopefully this helps you understand a little bit more about this Tier 3 crucifix, because it is a game changer. Absolute game changer. All right, y'all, let's dive into our next piece of consumable equipment, and we're talking about the Tier 3 candle. Now, this isn't a candle anymore. You get a full-blown lantern. All right, it has the same range, as discussed previously in our previous Tier 1 and Tier 2 guides. Has the same light range as all the other tiers of 2 meters, right? So this isn't changing at all, but you get a massive, massive upgrade to your sanity reduction percentage, which is now 66%. This is absolutely key for nightmare and insanity runs if you're trying to preserve your sanity as much as possible. Definitely get this lantern down and light it and get that 66% sanity reduction rate. Now, another big benefit about this lantern here is that it is waterproof. Okay, you can take this into heavy rain and you can light it and you can still get that sanity drain percentage reduction even in the heavy rain. Say you're on an outdoor map like Camp Woodwind, or maybe you're on the outside portion of Sunny Meadows in the courtyard. This is phenomenal. It's waterproof and it will never go out unless the unless the ghost actually blows this lantern out. All right, y'all, let's talk about our next piece of tier 3 equipment, and we're talking about the flashlight. Now, this tier 3 flashlight has a spotlight rated as wide, and it has an intensity rating as high in the Phasmophobia storefront information page for this item. Now, of course, this is the tier 3 flashlight, and it's going to be the brightest, and as you can see here, I'm in a pitch black room, and the moment I turn this flashlight on, it almost lights up the entire room. I mean, this thing is absolutely phenomenal. Right, keep this on you if you use the flashlight to light your way through the map rather than using the actual lights in the house. But other than that, there's not much to it. It's a flashlight. Turn it on and light the way to where you want to go. This thing will light up the entire room that you're in, guaranteed. All right, y'all, let's dive into our next piece of tier 3 equipment, and we're talking about the headgear slot night vision goggles. That's right, night vision goggles. Who would have thought in Phas? But man, these things work absolutely outstanding, right? They have a paranormal interference rated as medium, and they are also electronic as well, so make sure when the ghost is hunting, you turn these things off. But once you equip these things, you can see as clear as day in any dark room on Phasmophobia on any map. These things are absolutely outstanding and they work well. Again, this is one of the most highly anticipated upgrades for the tier 3 section for most players because they work so good. Make sure you get these as fast as possible. But other than that, that's all there is to it with the night vision goggles. Make sure you turn them on and use them to light the way, essentially light the way for whatever room you're in. All right, y'all, let's dive into our next piece of tier 3 equipment. We're talking about the lighter. Now, this lighter is absolutely insane compared to its tier 2 variant. It actually has a duration of 10 minutes compared to the tier 2, which is 5 minutes. So absolutely outstanding. And this lighter is also waterproof, and it's also lost its consumable part of it. So now when you use it, you don't need to buy it every single time in the shop. It's no longer a consumable. So again, use this lighter to light up candles, light up your smudge sticks. Make sure you have it in your inventory whenever you have a smudge stick as well in order to actually smudge that ghost. But again, this lighter works on the outside portions of maps. If it's got heavy rain, you don't need to worry about it going out anymore. You can now use your smudge sticks outside. All right, y'all, let's dive into our next piece of consumable tier 3 equipment, and we're talking about the tier 3 smudge stick. Now, with this smudge stick, you gain a lot of pros and upgrades, and notably one which we will go over here in just a second. But the main one is that it now has a 5-meter range, which means you can be 5 meters away from the ghost when this will actually affect the ghost. So that's a pretty big deal, right? Less dangerous. You don't need to get nearly as close to the ghost in order to activate the smudge stick and for the effect to actually work on the ghost. Now, it has a 7-second duration, which again, in our previous tier 2 guide, right, the duration does not refer to how long the ghost is essentially smudged for. That is how long this will burn for. So say you can light it and it'll actually continuously burn for 7 seconds. So you could light at one end of the house, walk over to the ghost on the other end, and boom, there you go. It lasts for 7 entire seconds, right? But now, the biggest upgrade with this tier 3 smudge stick is that it actually halts the ghost in its place for 5 seconds. That's right, this ghost will literally be stopped and cannot move and will not be able to even touch you for 5 seconds, giving you a great opportunity to get a ghost photo. Say you have an obake and you're trying to see that shapeshift happen, right? This is going to be the best smudge stick to do that with. This thing is absolutely phenomenal, right? Make sure you have a lighter in your inventory though in order for this thing to work, or else this light will not actually go off and you may risk ending your match with the ghost there. So again, that's the tier 3 smudge stick. This thing's phenomenal. Definitely recommend upgrading to it as fast as possible. All right, y'all, let's dive into our next piece of tier 3 equipment. We're talking about the tier 3 motion sensor. Now, this thing is an absolute massive upgrade from the tier 2 variant, mainly because you don't need to place it on a wall or worry about placing it at a certain height. This one is actually a circle scanning form, and you just put it on the ground. And so this will actually just scan around in a complete 360-degree view, and whenever the ghost walks over it, it'll pick it up, and it's actually going to light up and flash on where the ghost was. Now, you won't see the ghost, but it's going to flash in the direction where the ghost was. Now, just like the tier 2, you get your audio indicator and your light indicator. But again, as previously discussed, we get that scanning ability, and this thing also is a circle form shape. So you're gonna get that circle pattern versus just one line sticking out of the wall. Now, just like the Tier 2, you're gonna get the same information from the truck on the screen, but as of right now and the current upload date, it's actually bugged, so you will not actually see on the screen this red light turn white or whatever the case, or turn green rather, when the ghost walks through it on the truck, but you're still gonna be able to hear it and know. So once they fix that, it'll light up green on the actual truck in that circle. But nonetheless, this is the Tier 3 motion sensor. Definitely a massive upgrade, well worth it. This is, once I get this unlocked, I use it every single time. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and talk about our next piece of Tier 3 equipment. We're gonna be discussing the Parabolic Microphone. Now, this Parabolic Microphone actually has the same range as the Tier 2 variant, which was 30 meters, and it also still has a display screen, but this display screen looks just a little bit different, and the reason being is because now you get two separate pieces of information that can help you pinpoint the ghost in the ghost room a little bit more accuracy. And you get these two other pieces of information you get. There's going to be a directional indicator and as well as a distance indicator that's going to tell you exactly how far away you are from the ghost and exactly what was kind of thrown around, and kind of hear the decibel range of what was thrown, whether it be a shoe or say whether it be a saw, something more heavier. You're gonna be able to see the decibel reading, and again, as well as how far it was away. So this is absolutely a massive upgrade from the Tier 2 variant, and this thing is absolutely phenomenal. It helps you find the ghost room with so much more accuracy than the previous Tier 2 variant. But nonetheless, this is the Parabolic Microphone. Definitely use this as much as you can on those larger maps like Sunny Meadows to help you find the exact ghost room. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and discuss our next piece of Tier 3 equipment, and we have the Tier 3 photo camera. Now, the only difference between this one and the Tier 2 variant is that you can take photos much faster. It still has a display screen, it still has all that good stuff, but you can take photos a little bit faster. And other than that, there's really not much to talk about, right? I got some clips here of me spamming some photos as fast as I can and clicking my mouse as quick as I can, so that way you guys can kind of see how much more easier it could be to obtain a ghost photo or something of that nature. But other than that, this is the Tier 3 photo camera, and there's not much more to it. You can take photos quicker. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and talk about our next piece of Tier 3 consumable equipment. We're talking about the Tier 3 salt. Now, just like the Tier 2 salt, it has three uses, and it has that line form pattern that you can place in a doorway. But there's two very unique and special things about this Tier 3 salt. Now, the first thing is that when it's outside of a hunt and it initiates a roam, if you place salt in the way of the ghost room, so right in the doorway, say it's a one in, one entrance, one way in, one way out, it's going to turn the ghost around and it's going to completely cancel that roam, effectively trapping the ghost in the ghost room so you can more quicker get that evidence or whatever the case may be. Very, very unique. And then also when it's hunting, this is going to slow the ghost down for 2 seconds for each pile of salt that it steps in. So you can effectively make a much easier and quicker and safer escape to a hiding spot. So say you got a faster ghost like say a Hauntu or a Revenant, this salt will slow the ghost down for 2 seconds, getting you to escape a lot more quicker. But other than that, that's it for the Tier 3 salt. You got three uses. It cancels roams and it also slows the ghost down during hunts. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and dive into our last and final piece of consumable equipment that we have on our Tier 3 list today. And that's going to be your adrenaline shot, aka your Sanity medication. Now, one of the biggest upgrades from this Tier 3, or to the Tier 3 rather, from the Tier 2 is the fact that you actually get a 10-second infinite sprint boost once you take this. That's right, you can sprint infinitely for 10 seconds right after you take the Sanity medication. But there is a caveat to it. You have to ensure that you actually have sprint locked and loaded, ready to go in the tank before you take this. Because if you're already out of sprint and you're breathing heavy and you're already out of it, if you take the Sanity medication, you will not gain this effect. You will not gain the sprint boost. So make sure you have sprint ready to go before you actually take it. Now, the other pro to this Tier 3 is the fact that it only takes 10 seconds to completely regain the sanity that you're trying to get. That's awesome. That's a huge upgrade from the Tier 2. So you don't need to wait around in the truck anymore. You can pretty much take this sanity medication and go right back in the house. And by the time you get there, your sanity is already going to be restored. Now also keep in mind though, the amount of Sanity restored is based off the difficulty you're playing on. So of course, if you're playing on Nightmare or Insanity, you may actually have to take maybe 2 to 3 of these Sanity medications to get above that safety kind of net of generally on average 50% Sanity that most ghosts have. But other than that, that is your tier 3 Sanity medication / adrenaline shot. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and dive into our next piece of tier 3 equipment. We're gonna be talking about the sound sensor. So now with this tier 3 sound sensor, just like the tier 2, you have your 5, 10, and your 15 meter ranges that you can control remotely from the truck, and it's actually the only way to control them. But with this tier 3, the biggest and only upgrade that you're gonna get here is the fact that you can actually change the pattern and from which it covers. So not only do you have the spear, you also have a cone which will face directly out in front of the sound sensor, and you also have a side coverage which will cover both sides in a cone form as well, perfect for those long hallways like sunny meadows. And that is really the only benefit you get here from the sound sensor. But the way to change the pattern is by clicking on the actual sound sensor itself, and you'll see the shapes that the actual microphones make will mimic what direction it's actually going to cover. But other than that, that is going to be your tier 3 sound sensor. This thing is absolutely a necessity for maps like High School, Prism, and Sunny Meadows. All right, y'all, on to our last piece of tier 3 equipment. We have the tripod. So now, just like the tier 2 tripod, you still have that rotational control, which is absolutely essential, especially if you're a solo player playing on those higher difficulties that needs to stay in the truck and reserve your sanity a little bit more often than if you're playing multiplayer, right? You have that rotational control. Absolutely phenomenal. But also the biggest upgrade here, and really to be honest with you, the only upgrade, is the fact that the knockdown chance is now low. So you have the lowest knockdown chance by the ghost, meaning the ghost is not going to mess around with your tripod nearly as much, you know, honestly, if at all. So it's not really going to knock down your video camera at all, which is phenomenal. And of course, that's huge, especially if you're playing on a big map, say like Sunny Meadows, where the walk to the truck from the ghost room is super far away. You don't want to set up your tripod, walk all the way to the truck just to look at the camera and find out it's knocked down. So this tier 3 tripod is absolutely essential, especially again if you're playing on those larger maps and you're a solo player. All right, y'all, that is going to officially conclude our tier 3 equipment guide, and it's also going to officially conclude our playlist for all of our equipment guides as well, until they add more equipment into Phasmophobia. But I hope you enjoyed this video and this tutorial, and I hope you learned something, more importantly, over everything else, right? I hope you learned something. I hope you took something away from this video. This was a blast to make, and again, thank y'all so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure you drop a like, drop a comment as well. Let me know what your favorite piece of tier 3 equipment is in Phasmophobia, and make sure you click that subscribe button, baby. I promise you, it don't hurt no one. Go ahead, click that button right there. You're gonna forget you did soon anyways. Y'all take care, have a great night, and I hope to see y'all in the next video.